Whitley Adkins, welcome to everybody in Charlotte.
Robbie, I'm so honored.
That was scripted.
No, it wasn't.
All right. Whitley, so happy you're here. Very happy to get you in behind the cameras. You have been in here before. We have spoken, but I'm glad to dig into more of your professional / personal life on camera, so the hundreds of thousands of people that watch this can get to know you better.
Wow.
How's that feel?
Terrified. Do I just look at you, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Do not look at you. Don't look there, and don't look at the cameras
Everything
either.
you get in just peace.
That's right. That's right. So,
Okay.
How do we know each other?
I think I do. I know we know each other through Lee South, who you grew up with, and I went to St. Mary's with, and then we both went to Chapel Hill with.
Yes. That's right. That would be our first connection. And then I moved back here 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago, and we crossed paths somewhere because we had a mutual friend that I played basketball with.
I have no idea.
Didn't we have there's a black guy that went to Carolina that was not Daryl.
Oh, Daryl Little?
Yes.
I grew up with Daryl.
Right.
We went to high school together.
Right. So one of the first times you and I, face to face, were like, now who are you? Now who are you? And somehow you knew that
I knew
it was
who
JV
you
basketball.
were. I never didn't know who. No,
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
Robbie. Whatever.
Well,
and you know it.
So JV basketball, you knew Daryl played JV, and I think you asked if I knew Daryl. Anyway, that was our connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've followed you ever since.
Followed me?
Around, yeah.
Like
physically.
To the store?
Yes. Yes. Little do you know.
I actually had a client who reached out to me. I got an email from someone with a first and a last name and then the city she lived in. And she said, "Hello, I followed you. I'm reaching out to you because I followed you around Neiman Marcus and I watched you work."
Oh my God.
And when she said I folled you, I thought, naturally, what do you think?
Instagram,
Right. Oh, you follow me.
I have a lot of followers.
I was
babe.
Okay. She was like, no, I followed you around the mall. And I was like, oh my gosh. She was like, and I watched you work with this woman and you were lovely. And that's how I found you. And
I guess that's less creepy than it would be if around your neighborhood.
You told me that you were following me.
It's not as creepy as I am.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
So.
Where are you from, Whitley?
Here I am in your studio, finally.
Yeah, big time.
I grew up in Asheville.
Right. Like proper?
Yeah.
Nice.
I went to, Roy Williams, and I have 2 alma maters.
Huh.
Do you know what those 2 are?
I would assume, is it Asheville High School or is it? Yeah. Sorry. That was a big wrong.
You don't know this?
Just tell me.
T.C. Robertson.
Got it.
So I have two.
And what's the other one? No, I'm kidding.
2 Ram alma maters.
Oh, that's cool. We didn't play anybody up there.
Right.
I mean, I should know that, but we didn't. We played schools all over the state, but we didn't play anybody in Asheville.
Yeah. Anyway, I grew up with Roy's picture in our gym when he was the coach at Kansas, and anyway, you know him better than I do, I'm sure. Do you know him?
Yeah, I know him pretty well. Yeah,
figured you probably would.
I played 2 years of JV with his son.
Okay.
We were teammates. I know him a lot better, obviously, but I know Roy pretty well. My mom knows his wife real well. Anyway, Asheville, and you've got some connection to Eastern North Carolina, right?
Yes. And so just briefly, Daryl Little we went to high school together. We were on the track team together, and he played basketball at Robertson. And I guess you and Daryl played JV basketball at Carolina together, right?
We did. He was, I guess you're maybe a year younger or older?
Older than him. 1 year older than him.
Okay. I don't know how I know Daryl because maybe we're the same age. Are we?
Class of 95?
Started in 95? Yes,
High school.
yes.
Yeah, we're the same age.
We are the same age.
That's why.
I should have known that. Right. So Daryl was a year younger, which means I was in my second year and he was his first year. And my second year didn't pan out very well.
Well,
We're not here to talk about me.
well, I've heard your story, and I love your story. And it's okay. Anyway, I had to close that loop in my head. So now we can move on to Eastern North Carolina.
Shout out to Daryl Little. All right. So yeah, Eastern North Carolina.
So my mother is from Rocky Mount. So
got it.
That's
family still over there in that area? No.
I have 2 uncles. She has 2 brothers that are in the Outer Banks. But no, nobody's in Rocky Mount.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then tennis player.
Yes.
Like undefeated kind of tennis player.
Oh, well. At a very, 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 very small school.
Sure. Well, it's still competing.
Yeah, I played at Robertson, and then ended up going to St. Mary's, the Episcopal Girls' School in Raleigh, and played tennis there for my first 2 years, and played the best tennis I've ever played. And I did actually get a national junior collegiate ranking in the top 20 in the country.
Did you ever consider going forward with that?
Tried to walk on at Carolina, and I was way in over my head.
Really?
So I was proud of myself for even trying.
They were that much better?
I mean, they were really, really good. And
yeah.
I was a decent player, but
yeah.
It really was nothing, Robbie.
Got it. Understood.
It was an experience.
Still reputable. All right, so let's move into more. So Carolina, you're a Tar Heel. We're Tar Heels.
Yeah.
We'll always be blood brother and sister. And then you went to New York.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about New York, because we both lived in New York at the same time, it seems.
But we didn't see each other in New York. I don't
remember barely any of my years in New York. So go ahead.
I actually was just telling my friend Mercy about my time in New York. She asked me why I went there, and I said I graduated from Chapel Hill, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew what my interests were, but I wasn't sure how to make a path with my interests. And I was, quite frankly, terrified of, if I stayed here in the South, of not knowing what to do and how to do it, what to pursue, how to pursue it. And I think I was just thought I would have a fear of basically being a failure in my own eyes, or maybe the eyes of other people, like your family members, right?
So I was standard down here.
So I was like, well, I'll go to New York City and like figure it out. I mean, I'm a fighter. It's like, I'll go to the biggest city in the world and I'll wait tables if I have to.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did not wait tables, but that is why I went up there, and I had 3 jobs in 2 years. Was hospitalized twice. My apartment was vandalized by a heroin addict. They did actually find the guy. It was, I mean, you name it, I experienced it. But I just kept picking myself up and rolling up my sleeves. And anyway, it was an incredible experience. Way too long for this podcast. But
yeah. How long were you there?
2 years.
Gotcha.
Just 2 years.
So maybe we didn't cross over. So did you move there right after graduating?
I did.
Like 99-ish?
Mm-hmm.
I did. I moved. I graduated a couple years later because of some in and out, and then moved to New York. So I probably moved up there as you were moving out.
Yeah. And people I think are always like, my story there is kind of fascinating. I don't think like anything I've ever done in my life is dull, but I don't talk about it a whole lot. But since we're here, might as well. But I got a job working as a personal assistant for 7 of the world's top supermodels and 3 top stylists. So,
how'd you land that one?
Everything.
Charm.
I mean,
yeah.
No, actually, a family connection.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
It's the only way to land a job like that.
Yeah, this girl named Carlton Gardner, her uncle was Jim Gardner, who was a lieutenant governor in the 90s, and they were like best friends with my grandparents from Rocky Mount. And she was like, I have this position. It pays like $19,000 a year. And I said,
take it.
I can do this. I'll part-time nanny, part-time babysit, wait tables, like whatever. And so that's what I did. I ran errands and was a gopher. And I was terrible at it. I was so bad.
At least you tried.
I was so bad.
It's hard to be good in New York. So 7 top supermodels. Did you get to cross paths with these people and
Yes.
like hang out and
Yes.
go to the clubs?
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. And I'm just like, okay, it's I'm not glamorized by celebrity or fortune or fame or like none of that is, I'm just like, here I am, and take me or leave me. And well, they left me. It was only like 6 months, Robbie. It was so, but I did. I will say like probably one of the coolest experiences, or one of the most unique, was, I'll never forget, Naomi Campbell called and she was, she has this like British accent, and she called and she said, I would like to hear that song by Bob Dylan. It's like Lay Lady Lay. And I was like, Lay Lady Lay. And so anyway.
She asked you if you would sing it?
No.
Okay.
I'm just singing it
Got
for
it.
you because I think I'm probably like feeling a little nervous right now.
I want to hear the Lay Lady Lay song.
No, I think I'm feeling a little nervous right now. And that's like an awkward
That's
cover
funny.
of Lay Lady.
It's hot in here. No, that was great.
Yeah,
That
do
was
my
great.
hair. So anyway, I went to Virgin Records.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was called?
Mm-hmm.
Like, got a car, went to Virgin Records. I was like Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen parts.
And she's like, like the hair. It's like, think of Asheville.
Coffee.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like straight out of Asheville. And I'm like, got my Patagonia jacket on and my, old J. Crew loafers. And I just look, I kind of look like that. And I was kind of like, a little mousy and unsure. And I just have never had an attitude or an air of like, that you're supposed to have to like.
Did you find that you needed that?
I probably would have lasted longer if I would have had it, but that is not who I am. It's never been who I am.
Yeah.
So I think it all worked out, but
yeah, it did.
But the just because I gotta cook my brain is gonna. I went to the Virgin Records store and I got the Lay Lady Lay CD, the Bob Dylan CD with Lay Lady Lay on it, and she was staying at Trump Towers, and I went to and I was wearing that outfit and it was raining, and so I took the elevator up to the top and. She opened the door, and I won't tell you what she was wearing. But anyway, that was our first meeting, and I was like, Naomi, I have your CD. Lay, lady, lay. She was very grateful.
Wow.
Anyway, it was a lot of stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. So there's probably a multitude of those kinds of stories.
Yes.
Just for my own curiosity, top 7 supermodels. Who are the ones that I would know?
Do you know Naomi Campbell?
Mm-hmm.
Amber Valletta, Carolyn Murphy, Gisele Bundchen.
Sure.
Although I don't know if Gisele is considered a supermodel.
I thought she was like the first big supermodel.
You know what? I would say top models. Like I classify the supermodels as like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington.
They were in that documentary, right?
That whole class.
I thought Gisele was in there, but maybe not. Maybe later.
But Amber Valletta's gorgeous. She's from Oklahoma, blonde. You would know her if you saw her. Carolyn Murphy is like the sweetest, nicest. She's from Virginia. the first time I met her, she was just walking through the hallway in her blue jeans and like a distressed Jack Daniels t-shirt and Converse All-Stars. And she just had real natural hair, and she just, very unassuming. And I loved her because her attitude was very unassuming. Like, she was just very down to earth. And anyway, you would probably know her if you saw her.
Probably.
Frederique Vanderwall. She was a Victoria's Secret model. You would probably know her too.
Hey, maybe.
From the 90s.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure I would. I don't remember.
Anyway.
It's not. Yes, I would absolutely recognize these people, I would guess. Okay. So leave New York, come back south. Let's not go through the whole deal. Let's move to kind of maybe the last decade in Charlotte, what you've built up to where you are now. Let's talk about now and how you got here.
Golly. Do you have like, can you give me like...
Yeah, let's talk about Queen City Style. And then I know you have a nonprofit that you've created during COVID. Is that still going?
I've done no, I did a few things, Robbie. I think probably I had one business for 8.5 years in Charlotte, and it was successful, and I was providing luxury goods and services for, I call them the beautiful people or the fabulous people of Charlotte. And, that was a totally different type of business, but what I know that it taught me is how to talk to anybody. And, because I was working with like the top lawyers and bankers and doctors, and, I was only like 26 years old and talking to these people that were making all these big choices. And I think I learned a lot and realized, like, at that point, I realized this is what it's all about. It's just like being yourself and talking to people. And I know this is not what you asked me, but I think it's a big part of what has helped, what is sort of how I've like come into my own and realized like I do have something to offer. It's not necessarily, I'm not interested in fame or fortune, and I've never been glamorized by pretense or dollars, or, I'm motivated by relationships and experiences. And I've always pursued that. And I think this one business that I had, really helped me realize that, because I was in my early to mid 20s and I was helping people that, were so much more than I did. And I did a good job. And I look back and I realize it's because I was always my authentic self, and I always wanted to operate a business and a life with integrity. And I wanted to do the right thing. And, I've certainly made mistakes and I've fallen down, but, how I treated other people was really, and how you want to be treated was really, that's really the most important thing, at least for me. And so that, I think, has served me well with the Queen City Style I started, but it was actually 13 years last week, Robbie, and I forgot to sort of recognize myself, other than maybe telling like you and Mercy and one other person in passing conversation, because, you get busy with life. And there was a time where I did want to, at 10 years, I was like, I got to do this big celebration, and I want to do something. And, you just sort of get caught up in the day-to-day. But anyway, I started the Queen City Style in my basement at home after I decided to take a step back from being, from operating that business. My second son was born. I had a toddler and a newborn. And at that point, I said, okay, I need to focus on my children, because this is a job opportunity I'm never going to get back. And so I need to do this. And I did it, and I, decorated cakes, the very best that I could, and story time and Mr. Nigel, and, all the things that we would do in Charlotte, as a stay-at-home mom. And but I quickly, as much as I love that, wasn't completely fulfilled. And so I think I needed to feel like I knew I had a purpose, and I was sleep training them, and you know, fed them both, nursed them both for a year, and I was doing all those things. But I think there was this like creative element outside of my children that I couldn't suppress. And maybe it was hormonal too. I don't know, but I started throwing myself at everything creative, from playing dress up in my inherited grandmother's clothes and great grandmother's clothes to setting elaborate tables and repainting the furniture and redecorating and, you know, writing, and just it was, the creativity was like oozing out of every orifice. And I submitted an article to Lucky magazine, which was a shopping and fashion magazine published by Hearst Publication. And at the time, it was a huge publication. And that is also when blogs started. And I think Lucky magazine had this attitude that was like, if you can't beat them, join them. And so, because, you know, digital became big and print sort of started folding at that point. And so I, at the time, started a blog called The Queen City Style, which I think probably is one of the first, you know, blogs in Charlotte. And I said, oh, I'll write about all things stylish in the Queen City and beyond. And it just became like a public, like a public journal. Just, I mean, I wasn't trying to promote myself. It was just like, it was a creative outlet, and I thought it was so great. And so I just started putting all these things on there. And then I submitted a story to Lucky magazine about, they had their back page, like My Mom, the Style Icon, was a blog that was popular at the time. And they would include an image of a person, usually a famous person, and then the magazine would recreate the outfit and put a write-up of like where you could find these things. And
like an old photo or something?
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like Diana Ross's daughter submitted a picture of her at like Studio 54.
Right.
With the hair and, you know, the slinky outfit, you know. And then here's where you can
replicate, kind of?
Yes.
That's cool.
And I submitted a picture of my grandmother and my great-grandmother, who are my style icons, and they wrote me back and they said, we love it, we want to run it. And I just fell out, and that was, Robbie, that was that was the confidence boost. That was like somebody saying, that, like, I needed to feel like, I don't know what I was trying to say, but I knew I had something to say, and I didn't know what I was trying to say or where but someone, a big, like a national publication, was like, this is awesome. And so that was when I started the blog, and that was the beginning of it. And it's just been like evolving, growing entity for the last 13 years.
And so for people who perchance don't know what that is now, I mean, it starts as a blog and then it evolves into you actually helping with style for people. And explain that, please, because that's really
I know it is a lot. I mean, people all the time will say, like, they'll try to say, they'll try to introduce me as you just did and say, this is what exactly do you do?
Yeah.
You know, people try to say you're an influencer. I'm like, I'm not really an influencer, but I mean, I guess I am, but I don't know. And so I am a personal stylist, so people hire me to dress them, individuals. I'm a creative director and producer, so people hire me to produce photo shoots for individuals, businesses, and brands. And then I'm an editor a style editor at South Park Magazine here in Charlotte. And that was a role I created for myself after I was freelancing over a certain period of time. And that's been about the last 5 years. And then I guess I'm an influencer, whether I want to own that or not. But so, yeah, I don't know, Robbie.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
daydream and play dress up for a living.
That's perfect. That's why I wanted to interview you. So I want to ask the golden question, which is just, all these questions are just kind of my personal interests, because since you and I are the same age, I've got my own journey that I refer to and get asked about quite a bit now that I've got this new, path right ahead of me, and it all came from this just bizarre left and right and all these different things that occurred in my life that led to where I am now. And I love to talk about that. And I don't think I ever was able to talk in that way until recently. And I think part of that is my age. Part of that is the kind of the midlife, start finding meaning in what you've done, and all these years of experiences now begin to make sense because they led to this. And then that's just my favorite conversation. And I listened to you, and the whole reason I asked about all those kind of journey leading up to now questions is to do that, is to make sense of it all. So you did play tennis, you had a competitive aspect, you went to New York, you were a, Asheville kind of, Patagonia wearing girl with no edge, and worked for the exact opposite. The models, the supermodel world especially, and even fashion, people, whether it's 100% true or not, the stereotype is that it is the opposite. It is cutthroat. Mm-hmm. It's very, not superficial, but that's kind of what you think about. And you are exuding the opposite of that. You throw yourself into it, then you leave, you come back, you do some philanthropic work, and now you've got, a blog that turns into a style guide, advisor, everything. And meanwhile, throughout the entire journey that you just laid out, you held on to the fact that you are genuine and authentic throughout the whole thing. You just wanted to be treated the way you wanted to treat people, the way you wanted to be treated. And now you're at this place where you are an influencer. I mean, that the today's definition of that term is not really what you are, because you're not out kind of worried about hashtags, but you do influence people with what you do professionally and personally. That's the good stuff. And so thank you for sharing all
Robbie,
that. And I'd love for you to respond to that in any way you'd like.
That was so profound.
Whoa, man.
I had no idea you even
came from deep.
paid attention. No, that's really sweet. Seriously, that's so kind. I really do just want to ask you about you and talk about you, but...
No, thanks. Unless you have one question. I'll give you one.
Well, I feel like I already have. I feel like let me think of something new. I mean, I've listened to your podcast, and I've listened to, I listened to your talk with Matt Doherty, which was really fun to listen to.
That was so fun to do. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember which one it was, but you told me there was one podcast at the beginning of Champagne Problems where you really just told your story, and I listened to that very closely. And for you to do that, from my perspective, having been touched by some of the personal challenges that you have experienced for yourself, having been in a relationship on the other side, I just thought it was the coolest thing. You know this. I've told you this a million times, but I just thought it was the coolest thing that you would come out and share your story and realize that, like, you were going to be helping so many people. And now can you look back? And so here's the question. Can you look back and feel good about what you've done? Is there more is there something you would do differently? I mean, you have your own podcast and a recording studio. Is there anything you would do differently?
There's two, the answers to that question. It's like, there's a million things I would do differently, and there's nothing I would do differently, right? It's of course, there's all these things that I wish I had been, made better decisions on, but then I wouldn't be here without those experiences and making those decisions. So I think my favorite is no, there's nothing I would do differently. I do love where I am, and I love to make sense of all the things that have occurred, and it's all led to this, and I'm really, really proud of this and really happy with this. And, like you said, it fills my cup. It brings me joy. It allows me to be creative and all those things. The interesting thing about the storytelling is my story changes.
Yeah.
And there's things that I emphasized, 3 years ago when I told my story on champagne problems that I don't even talk about anymore. Because it's like I've just grown out of it. I don't blame like I used to. I don't express the anger like I used to. And so I don't emphasize certain things that created those emotions, because those emotions aren't there anymore. I've worked through them. So the story's different now. It's kind of cool.
But all through, I mean, champagne problems was like, would you say like the start of that progression for you in your personal life?
Definitely.
Because and how cool is that?
Yeah. I mean, just a podcast. And obviously, I've told my story one time. I've interviewed 90 people. Those conversations and this conversation just opens one more door and leads you one more into a new place and thinking about it a little differently. And it just, over time, it's like you just have a completely different view of things, and it's growth. It's all growth.
May I ask you one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything I can do to help you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard. Just spread the word.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what we do here. We create podcasts and content for marketing, and I think it's already going in that direction as far as the masses and more kind of in the B2B and larger organization space. They're starting to utilize this platform more and more and more, and that's where our business model is headed. So I think the only way to help me is to, if you catch wind of anybody talking about it, say, hey, I got a guy.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege.
Thank you for coming in. It's been fantastic. I feel like we uncovered quite a bit. I know you a lot better now.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Whitley.
Thank you, Robbie.